Tottenham bidding for a brilliant French international midfielder who starred at the Qatar World Cup. Meanwhile, the brilliant Federico Chiesa is available from Juventus and Premier League clubs are sniffing about. And over at Chelsea, one of their best young stars, Levi Colwill, could be exiting the club this summer because of their financial woes. All this and more on today's daily Premier League transfer news. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do drop this video a like. Press subscribe if you haven't already. I bring you daily Premier League transfer news and news from further afield, always starting with my beloved Tottenham Hotspur. And you can become a member, only £1 a month to become a pro member or a Patreon member. All the info in the description box below, and it really helps to support me to make this daily content for you guys. Anyway, let's get on with it. And of course, starting at Tottenham Hotspur, we're looking to bid for French international midfielder Youssouf Fofana. His contract with AS Monaco ends in 2025. Now, as we say quite a lot, Tottenham always sniffing around those players whose contracts are getting into their final year. This is very much Levy ball. This is very much a way that they see that they can maximise their potential in the transfer market to get talented players who are winding down their deals. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I certainly have. Players letting their deals go into the final year and maybe even further along, becoming free transfers, is so much more kind of regular now. They do it all the time. Think of someone like David De Gea. He still hasn't got a club, and the reason they're happy to do this, they're happy to let their contracts run down and perhaps even become free transfers, is because they earn so much money now that they don't need to worry about it in terms of insurance the way they used to. It used to be the fact that you wouldn't let your contract run down if you had any choice, because if you got an injury, you wouldn't have a club and you wouldn't be able to make ends meet. But now the players are earning so much money that they don't mind so much. So Fofana is letting his run down. He's only got it till 2025, and apparently it's not going to be extended at this stage, as in he's not looking to extend and is ready to leave during this transfer window. If you haven't seen much of Fofana since the World Cup, incredibly strong, powerful midfielder, works so hard with recovery runs backwards, and I have to say, that is something that we've really lacked, Tottenham Hotspur, that is, this season. I think Bissouma in the 6 role is excellent on the ball, excellent getting the ball off the centre halves, on the half turn, making stuff happen like that. But we have suffered from transitions where he does not work hard enough chasing back. In fact, there was one game towards the end of the season, one of the games where we experimented with Oliver Skipp at left back, where he was really embarrassing Bissouma with his sprints backwards, and we do need players willing to do that. However, Fofana is not just a kind of hod carrier going backwards. He's also really good on the ball in tight spaces, isn't afraid to take risks and be brave on the ball, something that, of course, Ange Postecoglou loves. But also, when he does win the ball back, which is pretty regularly because he reads the game incredibly well, he then loves to break forward with the ball at pace. He's so powerful, and he reads the game, as I mentioned well. Strong left foot, French international, and a good finisher when he gets into the box. Only 25 years old. So this is someone I can totally see why Spurs are looking at him. He would, I think, be an exciting signing if we could get him. And of course, with only 1 year left on his deal at Monaco, you'd think maybe we could get him for maybe around the 20 million euros mark, maybe 25 million euros. What have you made of Fofana from what you've seen? Let me know in the comments. Is he the kind of player that you would like to see at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club to kind of work alongside those midfielders that we have in Bissouma, Bentancur, etc., etc. Those fighting out for the 6 role, Pat Matasar, of course, as well. Let me know in the comments. More news as well on someone I talked about us being linked with last week, which is Stuttgart's Hiroki Ito. We are definitely still looking at him, and according to Alistair Gold, brilliant Spurs journalist. If you don't listen to the Golden Guest Talk Spurs podcast, do listen to that, and also follow Alistair Gold on Twitter. He's brilliant. But he says that both Hiroki Ito and Nottingham Forest Brazilian player Murillo, both centre halves, are options on Tottenham's list. Apparently, Ito would be tempted by an approach from Spurs this summer, and Stuttgart are concerned about the possibility of losing him because he has a release clause of 30 million euros. However, Alistair Gold also says that centre-back is one of the positions that we're going to be looking to solve further down the line of the window. Basically, what he's saying is central midfield and another kind of forward who can play wide or in the number 9 are our priorities this summer. And I think that makes total sense. Obviously, we have Van der Ven, Romero and Dragusin, so we have cover if we get an injury in the centre-half role, but we do want a fourth. So they're going to look to sort that out further towards the back end of the summer window, probably when we've got our outgoings sorted, so money off the wage bill, and when hopefully we've got those kind of bigger name transfers, the likes hopefully of Eza in that forward role sorted out. Meanwhile, talking about central midfield, also the rumours of Tottenham's interest in Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White will not go away either. Obviously, Nottingham Forest needing to get some money out of the door before June the 30th. Tottenham still sniffing around Morgan Gibbs-White. We've been linked with him a number of times over the last 6 months. I like him. He is a very creative player. He's got a bit of attitude about him. He's got personality. He's a winner. I like that about him a lot. I don't know. I've had a few comments before from you guys saying that you don't think he's good enough for Spurs, but I do think we need backup to Maddison. I think we need creativity there. I've mentioned before I'd love to see us get maybe Christian Eriksen in as a backup to Maddison, but again, a lot of people in the comments saying they wouldn't want that. So how do you feel about Morgan Gibbs-White? Do you think he's the kind of player who would suit maybe not being the first name on the team sheet, maybe coming in for Europa League games or when James Maddison is injured? And let's face it, James Maddison's injury history isn't good. Pretty much every season he does lose a month or two to injury, and actually this last season was his longest ever injury spell on the sidelines. Would Gibbs-White be someone you'd be willing for us to spend maybe £35 million on to come in, and so we've always got creativity in that kind of forward 8 role, forward 10 role? Let me know what you think. Meanwhile, big talk coming out of Sky Sports News this morning, filming this on Tuesday about 11 o'clock. Benjamin Sesko is not going to move to any of the clubs who've been linked with him, which include Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal and many other big European clubs. In fact, he's going to sign a new contract with RB Leipzig. The Slovenian striker apparently wants to stay there for another season. It would not surprise me at all, bearing in mind how much interest he has in him. Perhaps the most sought-after striker in Europe this summer. It would not surprise me at all if Sesko is signing this new deal, but putting in a kind of big release clause that therefore covers the backs of RB Leipzig for when he leaves and will still potentially get him his move in a year's time. Obviously, got the Euros this summer, and maybe he wants to have another run at a good season at Leipzig next year. More Spurs news. Atletico Madrid are back in for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. They are the club who have most been interested and linked with him over the last 6 months or year. Diego Simeone, a big fan. I mean, I think Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is an absolute Diego Simeone player. A workhorse, a tackler, a leader. You can kind of see them working together so kind of hand in glove. And with all the talk that maybe some other clubs were coming in for Højbjerg over the last few days, you can see why Atletico Madrid are rekindling their interest. That's according to Mail Sport. To be honest, if I was going to see Højbjerg go anywhere, and I think he will leave this summer, Atletico Madrid is the most likely place. And once again, for me, if you can get 15 million to 20 million pounds, anywhere above 10, in fact, for a player with only a year left on his contract in his late 20s, Tottenham Hotspur take the money just because he's not quite right for Ange's system, and that is what we have to do this summer. Get rid of the players who aren't right, take the money, and reinvest in players who have the attributes. Meanwhile, Tottenham once again have been accused by the chairman of Shakhtar Donetsk in taking advantage of the war in Ukraine. They're talking about our conduct when we signed Manor Solomon from Shakhtar Donetsk. If you don't remember this, because of the war, Ukrainian players who played for Ukrainian clubs were allowed to basically rip up their contracts to get moves elsewhere. And Shakhtar Donetsk are saying Tottenham basically got Manor Solomon on a free, and that's not fair because he had a contract, and they were expecting Spurs to kind of settle for some kind of payment. And now their chairman Sergei Palkin has started taking legal action against Daniel Levy. This is what Matt Law is saying, and I don't know, I have to say, this is not one of my favourite parts of Tottenham's opportunism. I'm not kind of an anti-Levy hater or a happy clapper. I'm kind of neither one way or the other. I'm pretty neutral on Daniel Levy, but I don't like it when he takes advantage of people who are very much less fortunate, people in a war in this instance. And I do think they should pay a fee for Manor Solomon. I think the best he did was offer them that friendly at the back end of last summer, which I went to actually, and Harry Kane obviously scored those 4 goals in his last appearance for Spurs. But I think Levy should just... The problem with Levy a lot of the time is, it seems to me that he doesn't think of the PR repercussions of some of the decisions he makes. And that to me is completely bonkers. Like, sure, I get it. You see the opportunism of, oh, you can get a player for free who would probably cost you £20 million because he'd had a decent season on loan at Fulham in the Premier League. He'd proven that he could score goals in the Premier League. But for me, think about the PR repercussions if you then take that player on a free and only offer a friendly in return. It's embarrassing. It makes the club look bad, similar to how it made the club look bad when he tried to furlough all the staff. And I think, Levy, sometimes PR is more important down the line than just kind of skinflinting a few extra pounds. Like I said, look, I'm not anti-Levy like a lot of people are. I'm not majorly pro-Levy, but I think one thing he could improve on is his PR decision-making. Meanwhile, Fabrizio Romano has come out and given some update on the futures of Bryan Hill and Alejo Valise. He says this: the idea for Tottenham, from what I'm hearing, is to add one more offensive player, also because there is a concrete possibility to see maybe one player leave in that position. For example, Bryan Hill, I think this summer he can go. He can try a new opportunity, I think, on a permanent transfer. This is what I'm told, and so they're considering several opportunities. Also, because Alejo Valise will return from Sevilla, but he will go back on loan again. Bryan Hill, what a talented young player. I wouldn't even doubt that he will have a great career, probably back in Spain. And he will get better as he bulks up, just like David Silva had to bulk up. They're a similar size in terms of height, but in terms of stature, Hill is just so easy to kind of push off the ball, especially in the Premier League. And David Silva wasn't easy because he bulked up and he was able to use his balance and strength. I think Hill will go on to have a good career, but it was an experiment that didn't work. It was a deal from Paratici, one of the few that actually didn't work, when he swapped Bryan Hill for Eric Lamela to Sevilla, with us paying, I think, maybe as much as 20 million euros on top. He was a bright wonder kid talent, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. And once again, let's just try and take £10 million or something like that. Alejo Valise, I'll be honest with you, I know he's got a lot of talent and he's got a future, of course he does, but he hasn't shown me enough in his very few outings for Spurs yet for me to think he's ready to come and try and force his way into the first team as a number 9. So I think it's right we send him out on loan, and I personally think it's pointless to send him out on loan unless we send him on loan to an English club where he can really feel the physicality and keep learning the language and try and get into it in an English way. Because if we keep sending these players out on loan to non-British clubs, then they're not going to understand what the difference is in pace in the Premier League. So I don't know whether it's possible to get him out on loan to a lower Premier League club, someone maybe coming up from the Championship, but that would be my choice. Let me know in the comments below whether you agree with that or whether you'd be happy for Valise to go out on loan to I don't know, maybe another club. Also, just another rumour coming in that I should have mentioned when I talked about Højbjerg to Atletico Madrid. Yesterday it came out that Jose Mourinho, the new manager of Fenerbahce, has told his board that he wants them to go and get Højbjerg. So maybe that is why Diego Simeone and Atletico Madrid have come straight back in, because Højbjerg was a big favourite of Jose when he was at Spurs, and you could certainly see him doing a job in Turkey for Jose. But like I said, I think Højbjerg will be holding out for Atletico Madrid. Alistair Gold also announced in his long-form YouTube video, which are really good, make sure you subscribe to him on YouTube if you haven't already, that Jamie Donnelly has really caught the manager's eye, Big Angie's eye this season with his performances for the under-21s. And as a result, he might get a loan next season to aid his development. Again, let's get him a loan in the upper reaches of the Championship. Let's make him the main man somewhere and see what Donnelly can do. I know people really rate him. I like the look of him as well. He's obviously a great ball player. He seemed to me, like when he came on against Man City and a few other of his very short appearances, like maybe he lacks a little bit of pace, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Obviously, it's very short amounts of time, very small sample size that we've seen him play for Spurs. I'm excited about him, and obviously Big Angie's as well, but let's see how he does out on loan. And then some Spurs Academy news came out yesterday. We are set to appoint Southampton's Jack Chapman as the new head of Academy recruitment. He's only been at Southampton for 11 months, having previously been at Swansea, Cardiff, and New York Red Bulls. That's according to The Athletic. Spurs putting a lot of time and money into improving the academy and getting a new head of academy recruitment, basically someone who's going to sniff around to see all the best young players in the area and beyond and getting them into the academy. I think we need that. We need to get a a through route from the academy into the first team. One thing you can say, obviously I've given a lot of abuse to Manchester City and Chelsea for the way they've cheated the system down the years in terms of being able to buy the best players in the world on the biggest wages. But what they've really done is invested in their academies, and that is where they are really killing it, because they are able to sell their academy players who've barely even played for the first team for upwards of £20 million. And Spurs just cannot do that. We are giving players away all the time. So they need to invest. We need to look at it as a long-term project. Okay, moving on to more general Premier League transfer news and beyond. Starting at Manchester United, they are trying to gazump Bayern Munich's move for João Paulinho. Apparently £60 million will do it. So if they can match what Bayern Munich are going to pay or up it, then it will be between Paulinho and the clubs. Bayern Munich have agreed personal terms with Paulinho, though, and it does seem like he wants to go there. He was nearly there in January, and I know he was disappointed to have not made that move. Be interesting to see if Man United can put that through, but all of these rumours with Man United are a bit pie in the sky, because although there's a lot of talk coming out of Old Trafford from Ineos in terms of the players they want to buy, and obviously they've got their sporting director in tow now, they don't have a manager they know is going to be there next year. So how are the players going to agree to it? Meanwhile, Galatasaray, the home for ex-Spurs players, have offered €25 million apparently to sign both Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Scott McTominay in a double deal. This is an interesting one because, as I think I said yesterday, I think United should get rid of every player they have other than Bruno, who is over 25. Wan-Bissaka and Scott McTominay are both. However, they're workhorses. They are, I think, potentially good squad players for Man United if they're going to be playing in Europe down the line. But are they the players who are going to help Man United become challengers again? They're not. So it's a difficult one, and that's why I think they need a new manager in to help them make those decisions. Also, United remain apparently 100% decided, 100% confident that they want to sell Jadon Sancho this summer, irrespective of who they bring in as new manager. And the fee that is being bandied about now for Jadon Sancho, £40 million. That is nothing. Tottenham Hotspur fans, with my heart on my sleeve, I'm asking you, would you take Jadon Sancho at White Hart Lane, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, for £40 million? Yes, his wages are high, upwards of £200,000 a week. But you know, with Sancho, that when he's got an arm around his shoulder, when he's given the confidence, he is a top player. And let's ask you, would you rather Timo Werner starting your big game against Arsenal on the left side of the forward three, or would you rather Jadon Sancho? I know what my answer would be. We should be sniffing around that player. Certainly we should get Big Ange to talk to him on the phone and say, Jadon, what are you up for? You look so good at Borussia Dortmund. You turned the season around. You helped get them to the Champions League final. Do you fancy coming to London and making potentially the best career decision of your life and helping Spurs to win their first trophy since 2008? I don't know. I'm intrigued by it. Maybe it's a bit of the old Football Manager computer game in me where I think I see a good opportunity, and maybe it's too dangerous a move. Let me know what you think in the comments and I will reply to you. Meanwhile, Chelsea have apparently agreed personal terms with Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. I'm gutted about this. They're speaking to them regarding the scheduling of payments. It's not quite done yet as a deal, but it's a big step forward for Chelsea. I don't want to see Olise at Chelsea. For me, I'm calling Chelsea now Hotel and Car Park FC. It's absolutely bonkers to me that they are able to make bids for players at the moment when they are struggling so badly with profit and sustainability rules. And the only reason they're able to do it is because they have sold their car park and hotel around Stamford Bridge to their sister company, and they've sold a piece of their Cobham training ground to themselves as well. It is fixing the system. It is out of order, and it is a loophole that needs to be changed from the Premier League. Chelsea need to be having to suffer in the same way other clubs are suffering because they've overspent and they've made bad financial decisions. But look, if Olise goes to Chelsea, he will be a danger. They are stockpiling young, talented forward players. What's going to happen to Madueke if Olise is there? I don't think he's going to get as much game time, and he was one of their kind of, better lights this season. I thought he played well for Pochettino. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich, I mentioned it at the top, are seriously considering trying to sign Levi Colwill from Chelsea, and this is the same thing, what I'm talking about. They now need to sell, Chelsea, academy players who've come up through because it's pure profit, just to make their profit and sustainability rules. Apparently, if Jonathan Tah doesn't move from Bayern Leverkusen to Bayern Munich, then Bayern Munich will go hard for Levi Colwill. However, Chelsea say that they don't want to sell him. Despite interest from several top clubs, he's considered an important part of the project. This is according to Fabrizio Romano. But clearly, because of we hear about the Gallagher rumours all the time, and now we hear about the Levi Colwill rumours, and there were even some rumours about Reece James maybe having to be sold. Chelsea are far more comfortable under Todd Boehly and Clearlake potentially selling their biggest young stars who've come through the academy so that then they can buy in talent from abroad. I think it's all wrong. I know that Chelsea influencers and Chelsea fans aren't happy about it, and Colwill is a great young player, and I don't think they should be allowing him to leave to, just buy players from abroad who are untested in the Premier League. Let me know what you think anyway. Meanwhile, over to Man City, Pep Guardiola has spoken again about Bernardo Silva's future. I've spoken about Bernardo Silva a little bit. What an unbelievable talent. I remember when I first saw him play for Monaco against Spurs at Wembley, absolutely tore us apart. He's been an unbelievable player for Man City. He's won everything. And he's been looking kind of to leave if he gets the right offer for the last few years. And Pep has said this: there are many rumours in the press on Bernardo, but no one has called us so far. We've received no calls from Barcelona or any other club. He's a wonderful player. I hope he's going to stay with us at Manchester City. I think he's always wanted to go to Barcelona, but Barcelona, possibly, arguably one of the biggest basket case clubs, certainly financially, in Europe, cannot register their manager. They can't register players until they do financial deals with the league. How did they get themselves into that situation? I do not know. Meanwhile, Guardiola's also talked about Cancelo, also who's been obviously on loan at Barcelona. He says, we'll talk with Barcelona about it, trying to find the best solution. If João wants to stay at Barca and the two clubs are able to agree on the fee, Cancelo will play for Barca again. We are on it. He's our player. So again, looks like another player who wants to leave Man City on a permanent basis. What a great talent Cancelo is, and he was just allowed to leave because I think he fell out with Pep Guardiola. On to Aston Villa. This is an amazing one for me. I mentioned it a bit before, but it looks like it's really happening. Juventus and Aston Villa are close to agreeing a deal for Douglas Luiz to join Juve in Italy. However, they also want some players. Aston Villa want some players from Juve in a swap. Apparently Samuel Illing Jr. and Weston McKennie, both players who've previously been linked with Tottenham Hotspur. Villa looking to potentially take them. However, this could also be agent talk. But the thing that amazes me about that, Douglas Luiz, such a great player, Aston Villa needing to sell because of profit and sustainability rules. What a time we live in. Over to Newcastle. They have completed the verbal agreement. We have a here we go from Fabrizio Romano on Lloyd Kelly from Bournemouth. I don't think Newcastle fans are going to see that as the most exciting signing of the summer, but Spurs were sniffing around Kelly for over a year, and other clubs were intrigued about taking him on a free transfer. And obviously, once Newcastle lost out to Chelsea on Tosin from Fulham on that free transfer, Lloyd Kelly was one they had to get through the door, and he's going to sign a contract till 2028. Also, Newcastle being linked with Kelechi Iheanacho from Leicester. Leicester, another club, going to have to sell before June the 30th. He's obviously a great striker, formerly at Man City. A little bit hot and cold, but when he's on, he's really good. So it'd be interesting to see if Newcastle go for him as a backup to Isak. And I wonder if that would then free up potentially Callum Wilson to make a move elsewhere. Newcastle apparently no longer pursuing a deal with Valencia for their keeper Mamadashvili, 23 years old, top keeper. They've refused to offer above 30 million euros for him, and that is what Valencia want. In fact, the Spanish club want 35 million euros apparently. However, Newcastle are being heavily linked with Burnley's goalkeeper James Trafford, and apparently they have agreed personal terms. So just the clubs now going to have to agree on a fee. Newcastle, I think, are doing the right thing, trying to buy a quality backup goalkeeper because they really suffered when Nick Pope was out for all of last season. Over to Juventus in Italy. Federico Chiesa's agent will be in Italy early next week to discuss with the club his potential exit. Juve are willing to let him go if the deal is right, and Premier League clubs will be sniffing around Chiesa. Italian European Championship winner, real Rolls Royce of a player. No final decision taken according to Fabrizio Romano yet, but both parties potentially looking for an exit strategy. Meanwhile, in terms of the managerial merry-go-round, it never stops, and the latest rumour from Graham Bailey is that Sir Alex Ferguson is pressing for Maurizio Pochettino to be the next manager at Old Trafford. I've said it before, I think Pochettino is a great fit for Manchester United as long as Ineos give him the patience. He wanted that Man United job back as early as 2018, 2019 while he was still at Spurs. He was sniffing around that job. He sees himself as a potential successor to Alex Ferguson in terms of kind of building and making them into a force again. And I think he's got the right personality for the Old Trafford job as well. What do you think in the comments? How would you feel if Pochettino went over to Old Trafford? It would definitely be a sweeter feeling than him going to Chelsea. When he was there, it was very ugly. However, Fabrizio Romano also says that there have been no definitive talks between Old Trafford, the Old Trafford hierarchy, Jim Ratcliffe and Pochettino, or Roberto De Zerbi, who is still on their list. Over at Leicester, Graham Potter is becoming the favourite to replace Enzo Maresco there, but Steve Cooper is still in with a chance. Over at Everton, God, what a club to support right now. Vachi Manukian, whoever he is, has made a £400 million offer to buy Everton, reports The Independent. Everton obviously now in a strange situation. They had a buyer, 777 Partners, but their exclusivity agreement has run out, so they're looking for someone else now. £400 million for a Premier League club, I have to say, is an incredibly low amount. And Everton have a new stadium that is nearly completed, but they haven't got the money to finish it right now. So what's happening is vultures are circling around Everton and just trying to get a low ball bid in to take it, and then knowing that they will make a lot of money on the back end. Apparently Manukian has put together a group including some American investors, a Saudi royal, an as yet unnamed Saudi royal, and the Australian Meyer family. Everton fans, if there are any of you out there, are you interested in getting into bed with the Saudis like Newcastle have done? I imagine what you'll say is you're just interested in getting into bed with anyone who will give you financial stability and the chance to grow again as a club. For so many years of my life, Everton and Spurs have been swimming in the same water, and then just in the last decade, Tottenham, because, let's face it, let's give some credit, because of Levy's ability to grow the club through infrastructure and make really good financial decisions, we have just gone further and further up, and Everton have stagnated and fallen back down. Barcelona, some Barcelona talk. Pep Guardiola, I've given some quotes about him and some transfers, but he has been honest and said he will never go back to Barcelona. He says, yes, the door is closed. Some England news with the Euros only a few days away. According to Matt Law, Trent Alexander-Arnold is set to start in the England first team at the weekend in central midfield alongside Declan Rice. What do you think of Trent in that position? He'll give us creativity and he'll be great on set pieces, there's no doubt about that. But is he defensive minded enough to be in that kind of six role? Meanwhile, I'm sure you saw yesterday, Gareth Southgate has taken Tom Heaton, Man United's third goalkeeper, along as a kind of goalkeeping coach / mascot to Germany for those Euros, and Heaton is very excited about that. Some other Euros news: Frankie de Jong is too injured to play for Holland. He is out, very disappointing for him. And finally, 3 Valencia fans. This is important news in football. 3 Valencia fans have been jailed for 8 months for racist abuse of Vinicius Jr. during a La Liga game back in May 2023. This is the first criminal conviction for racist abuse of a footballer in Spain. This is massive because in Spain, it is deemed societally far more acceptable to racially abuse people in a football stadium, and nothing ever gets done. And this is the first time it has been done, and it's vital, and it needs to be done more and more and more, not just in Spain, but all around the world. We need to rid this sport of racism, the toxicity. It's just awful, and it's far too easy for fans to watch games and just jump on the bandwagon if they see other people doing it, and hopefully these kind of punishments will stop other fans from doing it. Okay guys, that's been today's Premier League and wider field transfer news and just general news. Hope you've enjoyed it. Press like if you did, press subscribe for daily transfer news content, and please do become a member, only £1 a month. All the details in the description box, Patreon or Pro member. And also you can listen to this as a podcast. Go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Type in the Spurred On podcast. You'll find me there, and you can listen while you're running or driving or whatever. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day. Cheers.